We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some offseason speculation around the New York Islanders. There are some new reports suggesting we may see some significant change, not only within the roster, but possibly even within the front office. Could we see a change in GM or a change within the other employees within that front office? We'll discuss possible changes there. Plus, the future of Rasmus Andersson in Calgary is going to be one of the more interesting decisions the Flames have to make this offseason. Will he be traded? Could he be re-signed? We'll discuss his future. We have a few signings to take a look at here today. And of course, day 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We have the Devils and Canes, the Battle of Ontario, and Vegas and Minnesota underway this evening. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. First up, a couple quick signings from earlier today. One, we had the Washington Capitals announcing they've signed Bogdan Triniev to a 1-year, 2-way deal. He gets league minimum at the NHL level, $100,000 at the American Hockey League level. And the Avalanche have signed an interesting player as well. It's a 1-year deal because he's a little bit older, 24 years old. But they've signed Zakir Bardakov, who's a Russian player coming from the KHL, another player from the SKA St. Petersburg team. So we've seen some of the other prospects like Demidov and Nikishin come from. Bardakov comes over, is originally a New Jersey pick in 2021, is a really late 7th rounder, but never signed, never obviously came to the NHL here as of yet. He's a left shot centerman, put up 35 points in 53 games this past year. He gets a 1-year contract from the Avalanche. Obviously, we know the Avs are pretty deep down the middle right now after acquiring Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle, but we don't know how they're going to really address things in the offseason. Obviously, these NHL trade deadline pickups for not always players that stick around longer term. So will he be in the NHL? Could he play with their American Hockey League team? It's difficult to say, but an interesting low-risk, potential high-reward prospect signing there for a 24-year-old Russian free agent. A few injury updates as well for the Los Angeles Kings, who obviously will not get started until tomorrow with their playoff series, but we learned today that Tanner Jeannot won't be in the lineup when the series with the Oilers opens up. He's considered week to week, so he's going to probably miss at least a few games. The Oilers are also expected to activate John Klingberg, and there's a pretty good chance he could play. We're hearing Evander Kane likely is not in the Oilers lineup ahead of Game 1, that he's not quite ready here just yet as well. So we'll see how the Oilers officially put their lineup out tomorrow, but they will have some interesting names maybe in or out because there's lots of different moving parts there with all the different things the Edmonton Oilers are dealing with. Big update as well on Flyers defenseman Rasmus Ristolainen. Apparently he had to have, or is going to be having, because I don't believe it's happened yet, but is going to be having a big surgery on his triceps, and it's going to keep him out of action long enough. He's in a big recovery that he's going to miss the beginning of next season. Not quite sure exactly how much time, but it's unlikely at this point that he will start the next season on time. So obviously that is a major surgery, major recovery, looking at probably a good 6 months or better on that one. So Ristolainen obviously dealing with a tricep issue there that's going to cause him to be out of action for an extended time. Now, as I mentioned, we had day 2 of the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. Here today, we had 3 games on the schedule, 2 of which are complete. The third one's not quite done as I record this video, but we know how things are trending. The Hurricanes had a big day, picking up a 4-1 win over New Jersey. The Canes did have a pretty dominant afternoon, to be honest. 45-24 were the shots. We had Logan Stankoven picking up a couple goals, including one on the power play, which was good to see. Obviously, Nature's playing well for Colorado. Stankoven having a big role with the Hurricanes. So the Mikko Rantanen trade's working out well, except for Mikko Rantanen, who's still not really producing as much in Dallas. He had a quiet first game for the Stars, so we'll see if he can get things going in Dallas. But Carolina had a good day. I know New Jersey also had some injuries today. Luke Hughes looked to be in a lot of pain with a shoulder injury. I believe he did come back. I didn't get to see that entire game, but I do believe Hughes was back afterwards, but still something to monitor with him for sure. Brendan Dillon went down. As Cody Glass also with the Devils, another injured player, actually get some friendly fire and get a big whack from Jacob Markstrom. Markstrom was looking like he was intending to slash a player on the other team, and Glass just happened to skate by, and instead of getting a Canes player, he got his own teammate. Not a good look for that, and certainly not good for Cody Glass at all. So yeah, so not good on that front. But Canes win. A lot of people are predicting Canes will win in a fairly short series, but we will see. It's one game. Could certainly have a bounce back, but New Jersey definitely has some things to get better at. Of course, the Battle of Ontario had game one tonight. The score is a little lopsided, but I don't think the story completely tells that game. Toronto had a 6-2 win. A lot of power play opportunity for Toronto. They were opportunistic and capitalized. The Sens definitely had a discipline issue tonight, and Linus Ullmark didn't bail them out. I don't think Ullmark was as bad as some are making it out to see, because they gave up a lot of grade A chances. But at the same time, sometimes you need your goalie to make a couple of saves that they maybe aren't expected to and kind of steal one for you. And unfortunately, they didn't get that. The lack of discipline, though, completely hard to put a finger on exactly what caused it, because they were playing a pretty solid game. It's not like they were out there headhunting or anything like that. And to be honest, some of the calls were definitely questionable. It was a very lopsided penalty structure for heavily favored in the Leafs side. Were some of the calls legit? Sure, they were. Absolutely. The Leafs, I wouldn't say the Leafs got away with stuff and weren't called. There was a couple little things I noticed, but not too bad. The Leafs were pretty composed and, really stayed within their structure. So they didn't really do much to cause penalties, which was obviously good. But Ottawa definitely had some penalties that I know Travis Green, the head coach of the Senators, certainly felt like they were being sold a little bit, and certainly a couple of calls that just looked questionable, borderline stuff that you just don't necessarily expect to see in round one of the playoffs. You expect them to be able to play a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it was a close game until about halfway through the second. The Sens came out in the second period with a real solid start. Anthony Stolarz was big for Toronto, made some big saves. There was a Brady Tkachuk breakaway. I know Pinto had a grade A chance. He made 2 or 3 really big saves there early in the second, and then slowly after that, the discipline kind of unraveled. And like I said, Toronto took advantage on the power play, and that really was the difference in the game. Scoring chance-wise, 5-on-5, the Senators had a pretty solid game and actually had a lot more opportunities than Toronto did. It's just Toronto capitalized more and certainly took advantage of the power play time. So it's one game, again, just like I said about the other series, but do the Sens have some things to clean up? Absolutely, but there were certainly some things they could build off of as well to have a much better game in game 2 and see if they can at least get a split heading back home. They had great luck against the Leafs throughout the regular season, but as we all know, the playoffs are a different animal. In Vegas and Minnesota doing battle here tonight as well in game 1 of that series. It's 3-1 Vegas as I record this video. There's about 8-9 minutes left in the third period. Trending like a Vegas win, but it ain't over till it's over. We will see how that one finishes up as well. Tomorrow will be a big day in the playoffs as well. On Easter Monday, we got 4 games on the schedule. We're going to get game 1 of the Habs and Caps, as well as the Kings and Oilers, and we're getting game 2 for the Jets and Blues and Avs and Stars. So there'll be tons of hockey to watch tomorrow, so certainly enjoy that if you're able to take in as much of the action as possible. Now, as I mentioned, a couple of things for off-season speculation. One, we want to take a look at the Calgary Flames here and the future of defenseman Rasmus Andersson. Rasmus Andersson has really grown his game over the last number of years and has really proven to be a really solid top 4 right shot defenseman who's pretty good at both ends of the ice. He can help you generate some offense. Certainly a pretty decent defender. There's lots to like about his game, and he's been, you could argue, certainly one of the core members of that team. But there's a lot of question marks about his future. He's entering the last year of his contract, and there's a lot of debate seem to be within the fan base, within the media, and I think even within internally as well. Do they re-sign him or do they trade him? And now, of course, we know Craig Conroy did not want to have this rebuild be, tear it right down to the ground and build it back up. I thought that would take too long. Needed to keep some veterans on board. Obviously, Uyghur and Huberdeau had to sign massive deals with Brad Treliving when he was first made that acquisition with the Panthers for Matthew Tkachuk. So those guys were probably not going anywhere. Kadri signed as a free agent. He wasn't going anywhere. So they re-signed Backlund. A few other guys kicking around, but they did lose a lot of other veterans that they traded out. And now we're, faced with the questions around Rasmus Andersson. The way you got to look at it here is at the end of the day, they know it's business, right? But Andersson definitely has a desire to stay. When you listen to him talk, he's certainly fond of being a Calgary Flame. I think he enjoys it there, likes his teammates, and certainly would be quite open to re-signing. But from Calgary's standpoint, they haven't gotten to the point yet where they're even serious in negotiations. And I wonder what their thoughts are around this, because if you look at their decor now and what's coming, does it make sense for them to sign Rasmus Andersson? I mean, at his age and point of the career he's at, I suspect, he's going to be able to get good term and good money. And does it make sense for them to invest into him, even though he's a good player? They've got Mackenzie Weegar locked up long-term already. So, he's obviously playing a lot of minutes and arguably, would be your top right side D. So you get one right shot D in that way. You get Zane Parekh on the way. Zane Parekh is, if he's anywhere near the offensive threat in the NHL that he's shown in junior, you need him playing a top four role as well. They've got plenty of other depth guys that can be a third pair right shot defenseman, whether it's Miramanov, whether it's Pahal, or some of these other younger guys that are coming up in the ranks here as well. So they have lots of options. Do they want Rasmus Andersson to be a third pair defenseman? No, he's a lot better than that. He's not going to get paid that way. You need him to play top 4 minutes for sure. It's really going to boil down to, does it make sense to box out their kids? Like I said, Parekh has a ton of potential here, and I know he only got into one game at the end of the season, but he did score a goal. He looked pretty good. He's only going to continue to build on that. And, what do you expect of him next year? And even if they don't see Parekh grabbing a top four role next year on a full-time basis, obviously he could go back to junior. He could really dominate, but he's already done that as well. Or wherever you see him playing, it doesn't matter. If it's not in the NHL full-time next year, then it's probably going to be within a year after that, right? So if you're locking up a defenseman on a 6, 7, 8 year deal, you're going to end up really taking away a spot for him. So I think that's a big part of the debate and the dilemma here. So when it comes to Rasmus Andersson, there's a lot of potential that there could be a trade involving him this summer. Or do they trade him at the deadline? Do they keep him, not sign him, and then he's a big deadline acquisition? But we know how close the Flames came to the playoffs this year. They just missed. You can't get any closer and miss, right? So if they're in the mix next year and they're the same spot or better, or if they're locked up, they're not going to want to move a guy like him off their team because he's a pending UFA. And then if it doesn't make as much sense to sign him, you're going to lose him for nothing. So at the end of the day, you got to look at things and be like, well, does that make the most sense? They might get a bigger return for him, but if you're going for the playoffs, you're not going to want to subtract, because typically a lot of those deals at the deadline are more future-based deals. So, maybe we see a Rasmus Andersson trade this offseason. There's going to be, to me, if we knew for sure he was going to be available, there would be a lot of teams picking up the phone and calling the Calgary Flames, especially for next year. His contract's very favorable, and if he can be extended, then I think there's a ton of teams that would be lining up to talk to this guy. So I personally think it makes more sense to trade him, but I don't know how Craig Conroy feels, and it just seems like both sides, based on Anderson's comments, based on what we've heard from the GM, they're both kind of acknowledging that they're not sure how this is going to go, and there's uncertainty there for sure. So it's a situation very much worth monitoring, and I honestly think it's more likely to be a trade. That's just my personal opinion if you break down things and what makes the most sense for the club, but we'll see what happens. He'll definitely be on our list of players to watch as we get closer to the draft. And on New York Islanders, of course, we want to talk about them here today. A couple of things. One, there's an Arthur Staples' latest Athletic article talks about the fact that he feels that Scott Mayfield could be a buyout candidate. He's got a lot of term left on his contract, but if you look at the breakdown of Mayfield's contract, they'd save $2.3 million, having a $1.16 million cap hit for the next 5 years. The way he's been utilized this year would lead you to think that he's not in their future plans and that they're certainly having regrets over that contract extension, which obviously he's a little bit into now. And it just seems like a trade, according to Arthur Staple, might be very, very difficult, so he feels a buyout's more likely. either way, he thinks that the Islanders are going to do what they can to get out of the contract. Now, of course, who's going to be making these decisions? Is it Lou Lamoriello, or will it be somebody else? Now, Chris Botta, also a well-connected source who covers the Islanders, has had a lot to say about this lately, been very outspoken on social media that the Islanders need a front office change. Today had an interesting post on his Twitter account, or X account, basically saying that several sources have told him that there's winds of change blowing around the Islanders organization and that to expect several job openings. Now, didn't get into specifics, did not confirm 100% that they're referring to Lou, but, obviously with lots of talk around the team and the fact that they've been very mid, for 4 or 5 years now, it's been a while since they've had a playoff run, and we've seen so little change in this roster, you can't help but blame it on the management there. Like, they really haven't done a great job. So Botta's saying that from what he's being told, and he's heard this from multiple sources, that changes are coming. And he's not sure how to feel about it. He says he's a little guarded and a little uncertain to be too optimistic that this is going to happen. He wonders if, there could be more to it. Obviously, we're referencing as well the fact that Elliotte Friedman on his latest podcast has talked about the Islanders as well, kind of saying, that there could be change coming as well. But again, Elliott's not really been concrete, saying he thinks or knows for sure. He's acknowledged numerous times the Islanders are a tough team to get information out of. But from what he's heard, he wonders there could be, but hard to nail it down. And this guy here, Chris Botta, wonders if it's more of a effort on the ownership side to get some good PR out there to make sure the fan base knows that they care and they're seriously considering a change. And because we know the fan base is very, very, very unhappy. Attendance is way down. And a lot of fans are, like I said, they're tired of the middling results, either go out first round or miss the playoffs and not really make any roster changes. Like, how can you have this lack of success the last 2 years and not really change anything? It's been pretty crazy. Like, he changed the coach, brought in Patrick Waugh. You can make an argument that maybe that wasn't even the best move either. I know Waugh's a big name and obviously a Hall of Fame playing career and does have great success coaching at the junior level. Had a okay run with the Avalanche back. We know how that ended. Is it really worked out? I mean, I think the answer is no. Now, it doesn't mean that he has to go, because obviously the roster is going to be part of this, a big part of the solution here, right? And that comes from management, not from coaching. But we'll see if there's much to the reports from Botta. Like I said, he's kind of guarded here, and he's kind of not sure. He's a little pessimistic that what he's being told is going to happen, and I understand why. Because there's been a lot of times from ownership that you kind of get the feeling that they don't care enough, and it's more about a real estate play, more about the money. And the team's losing money too, right? Because the numbers are not great. If you take a look at the last few years there, it's not. Attendance has been steadily declining. The fact that the fans are fed up and want a better product on the ice, and they're just not getting change. At the end of the day, that's where things are at, and it's a lot of people feel like it's time for Lou to move on. And it's time for a fresh set of eyes and a new management regime to come in and kind of try to right the ship and make some improvements to get this team back on track. So let me know what you think. Obviously, especially if you're an Islanders fan, weigh in on that one. Let me know what you think on the Rasmus Andersson situation. And, of course, lots of comments on the playoffs. There's lots of great action here today. It's only going to get better as the first round continues. The first round of the playoffs is always some of the best action around the league throughout the entire season. So take it all in, enjoy it, and let me know what you think. We'll talk about it further in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.